Hey kiddos, we are on chapter 7, so hopefully you made your predictions about what was going to happen with the baby gnome that Ella was holding and the ogre was telling her that she had to come forth. So I'm hoping everything's fine. I think we'll find out pretty quickly. Chapter 7. "Where are you going?" cried Shar. He could see what I was doing. I must, I stammered. "Stop. I command you," he said loudly. I stopped and stood shaking, while soldiers crowded around the hut, their swords pointed at the ogre, who glared at me and then turned his back and retreated into his dim interior. "Why did you listen to him?" Shar asked. I was still having trouble with the child. He was pulling his little beard and trying to escape. He was crying. I used his distress to avoid answering the question. "He's frightened," I said, but Shar wasn't distracted. "Why did you listen to him, Ella?" I had to answer, somehow. His eyes, I lied. Something about them. I had to do what he wanted. "Have they found a new way to bewitch us?" Shar sounded, alarmed. I must tell my father at once. The gnome child wailed, thrashing in his arms. I wondered if the parrot's words might soothe him. I spoke them, hoping they weren't an insult. And I spoke the language to him, because I'm not going to read it again, because that was too painful last time. The child's face cleared, and he smiled, showing pearly baby teeth. "And he's speaking in that language again," he repeated. There was a dimple on the fold of his wrinkled and There was a dimple in the fold of his wrinkles and baby fat. I pulled him down, and he took my hand and Shar's too. "His parents must be worried," I said. "I don't know how to ask where they were, and he might be too young to answer. They weren't the ferocious beasts or by the grazing animals. At least we spied an ancient female gnome sitting on the ground near the pond. Her head was between her knees, an image of defeat. Other gnomes searched the reeds and hedges or questioned nearby passers. "Farakamem," the little gnome called, pointing at Shar and me. The old gnome looked up. Her face was wet with tears. And then she responded in her language. She grabbed him in a tight hug and covered his face and beard with kisses. Then she peered at us and recognized Shar. "Your Highness," she said, "thank you for returning my grandson." Shar coughed, an embarrassed sound. "We're glad to bring him back, madam," he said. "He was almost an ogre's lunch. Shar, Prince Charmant, saved him," I said. "And saved me, too." "You have the gratitude of the gnomes." The gnome bowed her head. "I am Zahapa, hardly taller than I was. She was much wider, not stout, but wide, which is the direction gnomes grow far after they've reached adulthood." So meaning they just get really, really, really big. She was the most dignified person I'd ever seen, and the oldest, except for Mandy probably. Her wrinkles even had wrinkles, small folds and deeper folds of leathery skin. Her eyes were deep set, and their copper color was clouded. I curtsied and wobbled. "I'm Ella," I said, introducing myself. More gnomes came, and they surrounded. "How did you persuade him to come with you?" she asked. "He would not go with most humans." "Ella spoke to him," Shar said, sounding proud of me. "What did you say?" I hesitated. It was one thing to imitate parrots for Simon or to speak to a baby. It was another to sound like a fool in front of this old lady who spoke the language. I repeated back what I had said to the child. "No wonder he came with you," she had said. And then the small child cried joyfully. He squirmed his arms. A younger gnome woman took the child. "Where did you learn to speak gnomic?" she asked. I am Zumpik's mother." I explained about the parrot. "What did I say to him?" "It's an expression. We say it as a greeting." In English, it is digging in good for the wealth and good of a person. She held her hand to me. Zumbik, that's the child, is not the only one you will save, I see. You will save many in the future. What else can you see? Mandy said. What else can you see? Mandy had said a few gnomes could tell the future. Can you see what's ahead for me? Gnomes do not see detail. What you will wear tomorrow or what you will say are mysteries. I just see the outcomes only. Well, what are they? Danger, a quest, 3 figures. They are close to you, but they are not your friends yet. She led my hand and let go. Beware of them and be very careful. On our way out of what I assume to be... on our way out, and then what I'm calling it is kind of like a zoo with like magical creatures. Shar said to me, "Tonight I shall triple the guards around the ogre, and soon I shall catch a centaur and give it to you." Dome Olga was punctual. Remember who Dome Olga was? She's the mother of Olive and Hattie, so the annoying woman. She and her daughters watched while my trunk and barrel of tonic were loaded up onto the coach. Father was there to see me off, and Mandy stood at a distance. "How few things you have," Hattie told me. Dame Olga agreed. Ella is not outfitted in ordnance with her station, Sir Peter. My girls have 8 trunks between them. Hattie has 5.5 trunks, Mother. And I only have... Olive stopped speaking to count on her hands. Less. I have less. Hey, that's not fair, she said. Father cut in smoothly. It is most kind of you to take Ella with you, Dame Olga. I only hope that she won't be a bother. Oh, she won't bother me, Sir P. I am not going. Father winced. Huh? He thought. Dame Olga continued. With a coachman and 2 footmen, they will be safe from everything except ogres. And from ogres, I could offer little protection. Besides, they'll have more fun without their old mother going along. After a pause, Father said, Not old, never old. Madam, he turned to me. I wish you a comfortable journey, child. He kissed me on the cheek. I'll miss you. Liar, I thought in my mind, but Dare spoke it out loud. A footman opened the coach door. Hattie and Olive were handed in. I ran to Mandy. I couldn't leave without one last hug. Make them all disappear, please, I whispered, now crying. Oh, Ella, sweetie, you'll be fine. You'll be totally fine. She clasped me hard. Eleanor, your friends are waiting, called Father. I climbed into the coach, stowing a small carpet bag in the corner, and we sat to move. For comfort, I touched my chest where my mother's necklace was concealed. If she were alive, I wouldn't be rolling away from this home in the company of these centaurs. I would never embrace a cook, Hattie shuddered. No, I agreed. What cook would let you hug them? Ha. Hattie returned to an earlier subject. With so few belongings, the girls will hardly know whether you're a servant or one of us. Why does your gown have puckers in the front? Olive asked. Is that a necklace? Why wear it underneath your clothes? Hattie asked. Is it ugly? Olive said. Is that why you hide it? It's not ugly, I said. Show it to us. Ollie and I want to see it. In order. I brought it out without wanting to. It didn't matter here. There were no thieves to steal it. Ooh, Olive said. It's even nicer than Mama's best chain. No one would think that you were a servant with that. It's very fine, although it's much too long for you. Hattie fingered the silver rope. Olive, see how milky the pearls are? Olive's fingers joined Hattie's. Let's go. I shifted out of their reach. We wouldn't hurt it. May I try it on? Mother lets me try on her necklaces, and I've never hurt them before. No, you can't. Oh, let me. There's a deer. In order, again. Do I have to? I replied. It slipped out, and I could have swallowed my tongue. Hattie's eyes glistened. Yes, you have to. Give it to me." "Just for a moment," I said, unclasping it. It didn't delay. They mustn't see me struggle against the curse. "Fasten it around my neck." I did so. "Olive," the order had been for her sister. "Thank you, my dear." Hattie settled back to her seat. "I was born to wear jewels like these," she said. "Let me try, Ella," Olive said. "When you're older," Hattie answered. But I had to obey. I tried desperately to ignore Olive's order, but all of my complaints started churning my stomach, pounding temples, shortness of breath. I knew at that moment I had to do it. "Let her have a turn," I said, Let her have a turn, I said through clenched teeth. "See," Olive said. "Ella says I can." "I know what's best for you, Olive. You and Ella are both too young." I lunged at her and unfastened the necklace before she had time to stop me. "Don't give it to her, Ella," Hattie said. "Return it to me." And I did. I had absolutely no choice. "Give it to me, Ella," Olive said, her voice rising. "Don't be so mean, Hattie." I snatched the necklace back from Hattie and passed it to Olive. Hattie stared at me. I could see her start to regret what had happened in her mind. "Ella wore the necklace to her wedding." Okay, I'm not reading this right. Hattie stared at me, and I could see her start to regret what had happened in her mind. "Mother wore that necklace to her wedding," I said, hoping to deflect her thoughts. "And her mother? Are you always so obedient, Ella? Return the necklace to me." "I won't let her," Olive said. "Yes, you will, or I'll see that you get no dinner tonight." I took the necklace away from Olive. Hattie fastened it around her neck and patted it complacently. "Ella, you should give it to me. It would be a token of our friendship." "We are not friends," I said harshly. "Yes, we are. I am devoted to you. Olive likes you too, don't you, Olive?" Olive nodded. "I believe that you will give it to me if I say you must." "Do so, Ella, for friendship's sake. You must do what I say." "No, I wouldn't. She couldn't have it. It was mine. It was my only thing in the world that was still my mother's." "You can have it." The words burst out of me, and I wanted to cry. "Thank you. What a generous friend we have, Olive." She changed the subject. "The servants were careless when they cleaned the coach. That dust ball is a disgrace. We shouldn't have to ride in such filth. Pick it up, Ella." An order I liked. I grabbed the dust from the ground in her face and pushed it there. It becomes you," I said, but the satisfaction was fleeting. I'm going to read a little bit more. About 15 minutes till I have to go to our writer's notebook sharing. I'm going to keep reading. Chapter 8. Hattie didn't know about Lucinda and the curse, but she understood I always had to follow her orders. After I rubbed dust in her face, all she did was smile. The smile meant the dust weighed little in the balance of her power. She knew something that Olive didn't. I retreated to a corner of the coach and gazed out of the window. Hattie hadn't ordered me to take the necklace back again. What if I had lifted it over her large head? What if I had yanked it off her neck? It would be better than broken than be owned by her. I tried. I told my arms to move, told my hands to grasp. But the curse wouldn't let me. If someone else had ordered me to take it back, I could have done it, but no one did. But I couldn't will myself to reclaim it. So I made myself look at it, to become accustomed to the sight. While I stared, Hattie stroked the chain, gloating, which means she was kind of bragging. In a few minutes, her eyes closed, her mouth fell open, and she began to snore. Olive crossed the carriage to sit next to me. "I want a present to show that we're friends, too." "Why don't you give me a gift instead?" The furrow on her forehead deepened. "No, you give it to me." "In order. You would like an order." "What would you like?" I asked. "I want money. Give me money." As he promised, Father had given me a purse of silver KJs, which we know is their currency. That's their money. I reached into the carpet bag and pulled out a coin. Here you are. Now we're friends. She spat on the coin and rubbed it to make sure it was shining. We're friends, she agreed. And she crossed back to her former seat and brought the coin close to her eye to study it. I looked at the snoring Hattie. She was probably dreaming of ways to order me about. I looked at Olive, who was running the edge of the KG over her forehead and down her nose. I began to long for finishing school. At least they wouldn't be my only companions. In a few minutes, Olive joined Hattie in slumber. When I was certain both of them were sound asleep, I dared to fetch Mandy's other present, the book of fairy tales, out of my bag. I think that's a bad idea. I don't know why she'd do that. I turned away from the two of them to hide the book and to catch the light from the carriage window. When I opened it, instead of a fairy tale, I found an illustration of Mandy. She was dancing on a turnip. Next to the turnip was a chicken. I had to watch her pluck that morning. She was crying. I had suspected that she was fighting back tears when she hugged me. You guys, so she's seeing a live version of Mandy. So it's like if she had Zoom. That was always on her. So that's kind of cool. I like that. Keeps them together. The page blurred because my eyes filled with tears too, but I refused to cry in front of Hattie and Olive, even if they were asleep. If Mandy had been in the coach with me, she would have hugged me, and I would have cried as long as I had liked. She would have patted my back and told me, no, those thoughts would make me cry. If Mandy were here, she would tell me why it would be big, bad magic to turn Hattie into a rabbit. I'd wonder again what fairies were good for. That helped. I checked to make sure that they were still sleeping, and I examined the next page. It showed me a room that was probably King Gerald's castle, because Shar was there, and the crest of Kyria was painted on the wall above the tapestry. Shar was talking to 3 of the soldiers who had been in the ogre's guard at the zoo. I puzzled about the meaning. Maybe an explanation would follow. I turned the page to find 2 more illustrations, neither of Shar or the soldiers. On the first there was a map of Frel, which remember is the place that they live in. She's called Ella of Frel. There was our manor, our house, bearing the legend Sir Peter of Frel. That's her father. My fingers traced the route to the old castle and onto the zoo. There was the south road of Frel. The road we were on now, far beyond the map's boundaries, far beyond the manor of Sir Peter of Frel. The right-hand illustration showed Father's coach, followed by 3 mule-drawing wagons loading with goods and trades. Father sat atop the coach with the driver, who was playing with his whip. Father leaned into the wind and grinned. What would the book show of me next? A real fairy this time? The shoemaker and the elves? In the version, though, each elf had a personality, and I came to know them better than the shoemaker. And I finally understood why the elves disappeared after the shoemaker had made clothes for them. They went away to help the giant rid herself of a swarm of mosquitoes, too small for her to see. Although the elves left a thank you note for the shoemaker, he put his coffee cup down on it and stuck to the cup's damp bottom. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Good. I want to get through this book because we have one more book that Oliver lent me that I want to read to you. So at this point, I am predicting that something's going to happen preventing them to go to finishing school. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm predicting. So what do you predict?